Hello, everyone out there. So we've been doing recordings and catch-up calls with obviously members of the team, but we've had really good results from that. People basically messaging in. So we're now going on to guest speakers. So I've got somebody that I'm very excited to speak to today, called Tom. Me and Tom lived together for years at university. He's the main chiropractor at the tuning rooms down in Cardiff. And yeah, he's here to talk to us today just to say what's going on around in his world. And I think we're going to start talking about stress responses today and how your body actually changes, which is huge. It is absolutely crazy. Give you a little bit of context. Tom used to swim for Team GB. So he is all about performance of the body more than just pain. So he's working on human performance. And I'm guessing, well, I know that's why he's called the tuning room and not just a chiropractic clinic. Tom has literally traveled all over the world, observing people who are like leading figures in chiropractic and in human performance and health performance as well. So it's really cool to talk to him about that. I know I've got a couple of guys who I've been talking to who come and see me anyway about Tom anyway, because I don't know if anyone's been watching Goop Lab. There's a chiropractor on there. Tom's actually been and met these guys and been adjusted by these guys. And yeah, it's incredible. So hi, Tom. How are you? How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me on, first and foremost.
By the way, it's all very good because Tom is a Sheffield boy at heart as well, so we've got a proper northern there, even down there. That's what we like.
I can put right thick accent on if I likes.
If I like. That seemed a bit forced.
So,
you lose it.
Yes, I know. So, thanks for having me on, first and foremost. I really appreciate it. And it's good to connect with other like-minded people within the health world. So, just a little bit about my story then, I guess. I'm originally from Sheffield, like we just alluded to, and I moved down to Wales to study chiropractic, and that's where I met Tom. I ended up finishing university 2 years after Tom because I took a 2-year gap in the middle to pursue my swimming career, if you like. I graduated and ended up working in Cardiff, and then we set up the tuning room, which is now based in Cardiff. So I do come and visit up north every so often. I have family there, and it's great to be back. And I always pop in and give Tom a visit and hang around the clinic as well. So thanks for having me.
I'm going to say, I think some of you might recognise Tom from. We try and do a bit of observation of each other. He was up just before Christmas when it was an absolutely manic day. So I'm sure some of you are recognising from then. So what is the world like down in the Cardiff then? What's going on?
Well, most places at the moment, we're on this government-enforced lockdown. So we've actually closed the clinic for 3 weeks. Although this morning I did do my first emergency clinic. I was inundated with requests for people who are struggling to, get out of bed and walk or sleep. So we actually opened up an emergency clinic, which allowed me to see 6 clients this morning in the space of 3 hours, which was a little bit less than usual, but obviously taking precautions with only one person in the clinic at any one time. So that was good for me to be able to get in there and actually help people hands-on for the first time in 3 weeks. But the rest of the world is very much slowing down here in Cardiff. And I think there's a lot of people that are very much in a state of unknown stress at the moment. They don't know what's going to happen. They're unsure of when they're going back to work. They're a little bit scared about whether they are susceptible to getting the virus. And a lot of people are in protection mode, and they just want to protect their family from getting ill.
I mean, we spoke about this a lot in practice because we've still got a team that's working behind the scenes, but the lack of information we are getting is sometimes more of a stressor than the actual information itself. I mean, we were all set for this review on last night, whenever it was, which never actually came around, and just saying that, yeah, we're going to continue the lockdown until we feel it's safe. But I know there's more information coming out on Thursday, but it all still seems a bit of lacking at the minute. But I know people are doing exactly the best they can. It is evolving, so we can see that aspect as well. So you mentioned about stress there. I mean, yeah, again, we've got the emergency number that's on the emails as well. If anyone does need to call us, we'll do what we can to help. But what's the biggest thing that you're seeing with your client base with stress and how the body's changing?
Well, I'm seeing it in clients, but I'm also seeing the repercussions of it when I go for my food shopping at the moment for my basic amenities, and I can actually, as you are trained to, you can see the symptoms of a stress response in people just walking up and down the aisles of a supermarket.
Yeah.
And some of the big things that we see are people are really on edge. So they're in this, what we call a sympathetic state, which is a stress response. And in the body, the brain has released certain chemicals, which mean that the body responds in a certain way. So they're on high alert, like I said. So they're very sensitive to any sharp movements, any sounds, or any stimulus from the environment. It's, oh my God, what's going on? And how that reflects in practice is their muscles are very tense and tight, and quite often that can lead to cramps or aching in the muscles. A lot of people are struggling to sleep because when they're on high alert, they can't switch the brain off properly, so that they may be struggling to sleep, which then impacts their energy levels. And another big one is people's appetite and digestion are changing, because we know when we're stressed, our appetite is suppressed and all the blood is forced away from the stomach to the muscles. So a lot of people are seeing their stomach digestion altered, and they might feel things like bloating or heartburn, or increased IBS, anything like that.
It is crazy, because I mean, all these things that we're seeing I mean, we talk a lot about in our practice, especially in the induction sessions that we do and in the reports, but all these things can be considered as separate diseases, but they're not. They're physiological changes of your body trying to adapt to stress. So it's only the same principle if a tiger walked around the corner, or whether you're working in a stressed environment with emails and God knows what else coming in, you're still going to have that same response. So yeah,
absolutely. And that stress response, what people got to understand is it's happening on an autonomic level, on a subconscious level. We've really got no conscious control over. And the idea of it is to protect us in life-threatening situations, which is absolutely paramount. So when we feel or detect something in our environment that is life-threatening, we need to be able to deal with that. But of course, when we're having day-to-day normal stressors that are setting the stress response off, like listening to the media, the worry of contracting coronavirus, the worry of not knowing when going back to work, the worry of finances, all these little stressors are on a subconscious level setting off that same stress response in everyone's nervous systems.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, like, you said something which was, you can spot when somebody's in a stress response, and like twitchy movements and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure people listening now will literally be walking around the general public, like, looking at people. There's other signs as well. I mean, like, you mentioned muscle tone. You'll see that people seem to get that, like, contraction to the shoulders, flushing in the cheeks, changes in rhythm and breathing and heart rate. So yeah, it's really interesting to look around and see physical signs of that in the environment.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest gives in this, if anyone's listening, is if you notice yourself sighing a lot. It's that mouth breathing into the chest, which is associated with being stressed. So if you do notice yourself sighing a lot, or waking up in the morning with a dry mouth, you've been breathing through your mouth all night, and that is a key indicator that you're actually stuck in a stress response. And there's a really simple way that we teach to try and reprogram that within the brain, and it's simply just take a second, breathe in through your nose and into your stomach, and that immediately takes you away from a stress response.
Yeah, I think John Berman, you've been out to actually see John and spend some time with him in California. Incredible. If anyone's watching or listening in, go onto YouTube. There's a plethora of different videos there on different topics. I use it as a resource quite a bit. But he talks about actually breathing changes the acidity levels in the body as well. So it helps your body try and flip. Deep breathing for like periods of time actually help flip that stress response, trying to onto a rest and digest response.
Absolutely, that's John Bergman, Bergman. He does our lectures on every topic, but essentially what he told me was, he said there's no such thing as a disease in the body. He said there's only a normal response to stress, and that shows up as disharmony. And he said to me, he said 99% of all diseases are caused by stress.
Yeah.
And what he was seeing in his office were just people who were stuck in a chronic stress response.
There was I've used it a few times now. There's a beautiful line that has been thrown around at the minute, which says crisis is change waiting to happen. And especially when people are looking around businesses at the minute, they see that everything's going on. A lot of people either run away from that and say everything's breaking down, but realistically it's time now for us to try and change the way that business run, do all the things that we're supposed to be doing to try and elevate our businesses. But the same principle is also applied to the body. So if somebody is having difficulty breathing, it's not just, the problem's not just the difficulty breathing, it's actually their body trying to cope with all the stresses from lifestyle, trauma, chemicals that's been placed onto it. So is their body trying to adapt and recalibrate to the healthiest state? And I think that can be applied, like you say, to literally any sort of symptom presentation.
That's right, absolutely right. And it's the same analogy as when people say they're sick. Let's say you're actually vomiting or you have symptoms of diarrhea. Instead of viewing that as someone being sick, we really should be viewing it as saying, wow, our body is so healthy, it's ejecting these toxic chemicals from our body. It's purging, absolutely. So it's vomiting and diarrhea is just your body intelligently getting rid of the rubbish, toxic things within it. So it never really should be viewed as being sick.
It's amazing how we've managed to get onto diarrhea talk within less than 10 minutes, which is just like a normal thing in our lives at the minute, nevertheless, especially with a kid. One cool thing then, so obviously you said something there previously, which was it's an autonomic response. It's an automatic response that we can't control. Now, a lot of people listening in will be going, well, I can't do anything about it then. But the realistic viewpoint is that we can't control how our body responds, but we can control the environments and the factors that might be setting off that response. Does that make sense? So, it's all right looking at it and going, well, this is automatically happening. I can't stop my body from doing this. You can't stop the reaction, but you can change the factors where that might trigger that response. So I think that's important for somebody to know on a big basis. What do you say to that?
I would say that there's a great chiropractor called Dr. James Chestnut in Canada, and he talks about baseline health. And he talks about the status of your baseline health will determine whether you can deal with the stress. So he said the stress is going to set off your stress response. But if your baseline health is here and you have a stress, your baseline health is going to go down to here. But if your starting baseline health is up here and you have a stress, then you're only down to here. So you've got more of a, if you like, a bungee or, sorry?
Like reserve?
You have more of a reserve. You have more of a capacity to deal with the stress. So the question really is, okay, we're all going to face stress in our lives, absolutely. How can we improve our baseline health status so that if we do come across things like an infectious disease or let's say we damage ourselves, then we're able to deal with that in a much more efficient and effective way.
Yeah, it's something, with any tissue, there's something called margin of safety. So if I've got a piece of tissue paper, and say that's like tension even within a tissue, like a muscle or a ligament, if it's slack and I put force through, it can absorb that. And that's exactly the same as margin of safety. If I've got a tissue which is already stressed or under tension, and I put exactly the same force through, it's going to rip or cause damage. I learned so much from my first principal chiropractor, my first job I went to, Julia, and she used to talk about how much fuel have you got in your tank. So if you do need to overtake somebody and put your foot on the accelerator and pull out, if you've not got a lot of fuel there, it's likely that you're going to stall or crash. Or if you've got that fuel in the tank, you can accelerate, and then once you've come out of that lane, you've accelerated around the lorry, you can come back in and then go back to your normal speed limit. So yeah, it's a really, really important.
Exactly. I mean, they're two absolutely fantastic analogies. Really good, especially the tissue one. And another good analogy that I use is talking about a bank balance. So every time that you do something that brings your body towards optimal health, you're putting a deposit in your bank account. So that might be eating the correct foods or getting enough sleep or doing some exercise or resting, you're making a deposit in your bank account. You're building that balance up. And every time that you make a withdrawal or do something to affect your health negatively, and that might be a stress, it might be work, you might have to stay up late for work, or it might be a trauma that you've had, then that is a deposit. And as long as you keep your balance above zero, you're going to be okay. But as soon as you withdraw more than you're depositing, that's when we notice symptoms in the body and disease.
And that could be anything, like somebody drove into my car the other day and I have to pay the excess or something like that. Add that level of stress to the whole thing. That's going to be crazy. So,
and exactly, and as long as your normal bank balance is within a good limit, you can absorb that and you're going to be all right. But if you were teetering on zero and then the final straw, someone runs into the back of you, that would have been the end of it.
I tell you what, especially when we're releasing this to our communities around Yorkshire, this is going to cause a lot of pain talking about money to Yorkshire. I can feel myself sweating already.
My dad always used to say, you can always tell a Yorkshireman because he's got a big nose. And I said, why is that? He said, because fresh air is completely free.
Love it. So you're looking at different aspects of health as well. So you've gone through all that general stuff, but you're also quite an energy-based chiropractor as well, aren't you? So seeing how people have the ability to contract muscles and use the physical energy reserve that we store in our cells anyway, and how that might change when we're having a stress state, or if there's a change in a demand of energy in our body, when that could be old injuries or trauma or anything like that, or layered trauma from the past. What do you think is going to happen coming out the back of this? How do you think people are going to actually build those reserves of energy back up after we get out of this lockdown? And what advice would you give people? There you go, mate. That's a loaded question, isn't it? That's a very loaded question.
Well, I think some people have already started to do this. I think one of the big things is we do in our society, we live life at 100 miles an hour. So one good thing that's coming out of this is people are actually spending more time with their families at home, and they're connecting with people around them. And it's also forcing people just to take a second and reflect on what's important to them in their life. And if they can implement that when we get back to normal, they're going to feel much more positive about overall life. So if they can implement that within their normal routine, long term, it takes about 30 days to program a habit. If they can do that, they're going to see much more positivity going forwards. And another good thing is people at this moment in time, they're very cautious about what they're buying. So, when they're going to the supermarket, it's not just I'm going to buy everything. It's about what do we actually need. So I think we're seeing at the moment maybe waste, especially fresh food, is going down. We are not doing as much travel and transport in the world. So we're already seeing that the pollution levels have gone down. I think there was an article the other day that dolphins had returned to the Venice canals. So there has been positives coming out of this, but it's how do we maintain those moving back when we go back into normal? And the simple answer is you just got to find out what's important to you as a person and in your lifestyle, and take time to reflect that now and implement that when you go back, and prioritize what's important to me, what makes me happy.
Yeah, I mean, it is a beautiful time now and a beautiful chance to kind of reappraise everything that's going on and make choices and decisions and breakpoints depending on what is prioritized for you. And I know, Christ, Tom's really clinic like we are. I know there's a lot of things that we are now doing, or we're coming in and going, well, we need to, why have we been doing this way? Why are we, let's just go back to basics. Let's go back to, serving people at a certain level and clearing things up. And I think that it's not just on a business level. I think that goes across all aspects of life. And I think, probably people have drunk more than they ever have in the first 2 weeks, and then they've suddenly gone, now what?
I think they've realised, yes, it's good to have that release, but there's more to life than just turning to alcohol.
Yeah.
And another good thing at the moment, obviously, was with the weather. We're having pretty good weather. People are getting a little bit of vitamin D when they're going outside. We know that vitamin D is a prerequisite for good immune health. So there are positives there. And, thankfully, we have good weather at the moment.
Yeah, Christ, I wouldn't know what it would be like if it was absolutely miserable now. I think there'd be more deaths and not from COVID-19, but that's a different story. So, yeah, if you want to get in contact or follow anything that Tom's doing, how do people get in contact with you, Tom, and so they can follow your stuff on media or anything else?
So we've got the website, thetuningroom.co.uk. If you Google us, we'll come up there. The Tuning Room in Cardiff. We post videos on Facebook and social media all the time. And like I said, we've got the links there with Dr. John Bergman. I really recommend checking out his YouTube channel. Any symptom that you're having, just type in YouTube, Dr. John Bergman blood pressure, or Dr. John Bergman back pain, or whatever it is. Type it in, and there'll be a 45-minute video on there explaining why your body's not working and how to get it working a little bit better.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to talk about John quickly, but he used to be a lecturer in, was it physiology and anatomy? He's basically wasn't a chiropractor. He used to teach medics, and then he's become a chiropractor. So all the stuff that he goes through on there is, he reviews a lot. He's not just somebody putting information out.
Yeah, he's one of the most advanced medical knowledge chiropractors that I know. He worked for 20 years in the anatomy labs, doing human dissection. So he knows anatomy inside out. And his story was, he actually got run over. He got run over, and he's really badly damaged one of his knees. And they basically told him that he was never going to be able to walk again, and he'd be on painkillers for the rest of his life. And he thought there must be another way, and he went to see a chiropractor, and they got his knee moving again. They got him off all his painkillers to the point where he said, "Wow, this is incredible. This is something that I want to go and study." So I think at the age of 42, he went to chiropractic school, and since then he's just set up his own practice, and he's absolutely making a difference in people's lives. People fly all over the world to go and see him.
Cool, amazing, brilliant. Well, thank you ever so much for your time, Tom. I'm going to do a quick shameless plug at the end, because if there is any chiropractors listening to this, me and Tom are going to be releasing a course. We've been working on it all this time that we've been off, and there's going to be an exciting release coming up soon. It's going to be on a muscle testing technique. You can see Tom smiling there. Tom's been working on a lot of the content going into the neuro side, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. That was supposed to be the 15th and 16th of May, but that's not anymore. So we will be releasing a new dates very shortly. But if you are interested in coming and spend the weekend with like-minded chiros and looking at a different level of a protocol to how to adjust, and it's not a technique as in this is the technique you use to adjust here. It's a way or a system of understanding why and where to adjust at certain points depending on the person's need and energy. Just drop us an email, either me, Tom at gooselaneclinic.co.uk, or Tom at
thetuningroom.co.uk,
and we'll get you the information sent out about what to do. So thank you, everyone. Stay healthy, stay safe, and see you on the other side.